The opportunities in agriculture are huge, and the federal government has taken steps to open up the gateway. Some of the steps we've taken are very obvious to all of us. We managed to get the central bank to get involved in lending to agriculture at 9% in the famous Anchor Borrowers Program. Even 9% is extremely high, but at least it's better than 25, 30%, which the commercial banks offer. There is no way any farmer, indeed any industrialist, can thrive at the interest rate profile that Nigeria has had for the last 30 years. And that, in many ways, accounts for the death of our economy. But she mentioned a few items. Who would have thought that the Tin Can Island would publish reports that agricultural exports have gone up 150%, and that today we export more than we import? Who would have thought that we could do what we're doing in rice, reducing imports as drastically as we have done in the last 2 years? But how did we get these things going? When we came, we decided not to engage in any policy somersault. Our predecessor in office had a program. We decided to expand and deepen that program rather than throw it overboard. And therefore, we moved forward with it. I will be very brief in saying this, that what we need to do, and what I think the governor of Ogun State has started doing, and what we're doing at the center, under the leadership of the Vice President, is that we're looking a little more into the future than we did before. There were two European philosophers, Baron de Montesquieu and Hegel, who once complained that the black race has a weakness, that we have an incapacity for long-term strategic planning, and that we live by the day and get caught by the future. Now we're looking at the future, because the future is more urgent and more dangerous than the present. If we're going to be 450 million in 30 years, if oil and gas would have disappeared, the options for export and foreign exchange earning are not too many. Agriculture, solid minerals, perhaps services. If we're going to be 450 million in 30 years' time, perhaps what we need to do now is to set up what I call the Ministry of the Future. Maybe a very unattractive ministry, maybe one which Governor Amosun can head. Why? Because I see in what he is doing a look into the distant future. Industrialize now, create opportunities now, or fall into a terrible pit. If we have 450 million, where is the housing? Where are the roads? Where are the railways? Where are the hospitals? Where are the schools? What of environmental management? What of crime? Where is the security? What kind of economy will you have if you don't begin to invest now? And agriculture is that sector. Ogun State is working hard. The rest of the country has to wake up, because we cannot afford at that time to be importers of rice, sugar, wheat, milk, fish. We can't. And so let me invite you, especially the youth. The future is here, and the future is yours. What government is looking at is how to make it easy for you to participate in agriculture. Land clearing, cheaper credit. We hope one day, after thorough examination, to bring interest rates to a reasonable level, maybe 5 to 7%, maybe. That should help. Maybe mechanization. Today we have less than 20,000 tractors in this whole country. We need at least 1 million, because the hoe and cutlass are no longer useful as tools for agricultural development. And what about the export market? Who would have thought that Nigeria could export hibiscus flower to South America to the tune of $35 million last year? And when we talk of 1 million tons of rice, how much is 1 million tons? 1 million tons of rice will fill up 33,300 trailers. 1 million tons. If you line the trailers up, they stretch from Lagos to Benin. That's 1 million tons. And we consume 7 of that each year. So the market is big. The opportunities are huge. I invite those of you who are not there, come along. It's not as bad as it was. There is money in agric. The farmers are getting richer. And the change we promised Nigeria has begun in the rural areas. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And apologies for not inviting you first earlier. The Minister has said it, Honorable Minister has said it. We have a growing population. I think based on the last calculation, we have 5 million, we add 5 million people to Nigeria every year. So you can imagine we're going to be about 450 million in 30 years, I think the Honorable Minister said. Now, my question to the panel, and we'll take it from my friend on my right here, Mr. Zach. My question to the panel is, if the population is growing at this rate, and if we're going to have to feed as many people as that in about 30 years, how do we increase the yield on production, on factors of production? Sorry about the logistics. On the panel, though, excuse me, I didn't introduce the panel. On the panel, we have experienced people in the field of agriculture in different fields, and we're benefiting from their experience by having them in this room today. So, starting with you, Mr. Adibutu, what are the things that we have to do based on your experience? What are the things that we have to do to improve on our productivity to be able to match the rate at which the population is growing?
Thank you very much. I'm going to leverage on my own experience in farming, and I'll refer to a few stories and then take ideas from there. When the Honorable Commissioner was speaking, I was just looking at her because it seemed as if she had spied my notes, but notwithstanding, I'll still go a bit in that direction. One of the major limiting factors we have is also a resource we have in abundance. We have a lot of fertile land in Ogun State, a lot of fertile land in Nigeria, but getting access to that land is a major problem. And I will take it from two ends of the spectrum. I grow all palm. We need large amounts of land to grow that. If you ask me today, what is the limiting factor I have? It's access to land. I know the government is doing a lot to try and mitigate this, but I think a lot more still needs to be done, and they need to sit with all stakeholders and work out